Well, good afternoon, everybody. Hope you're all having a beautiful, wonderful day, whatever time of day it is, wherever you're at, or whenever you're watching this. This morning I did a post out of my book again. You know, you might wonder why I talk about this so much. Then again, maybe you don't, but it's evident that there's a huge need to be talking about abuse, whether it's sexual, physical, emotional, or spiritual abuse among anybody, men and boys and girls and ladies and women. Because there appears to be a stigma attached to it all that keeping people in the shadows and in the closet for too many years. And every year that goes by and they're locked in the closet, not talking about their abuse, not being able to talk about their abuse, being shut down, being shamed for talking about their abuse, is just piling more and more shame on them, and they fall deeper and deeper into the trap. Now, again, I'm talking in general terms, and understand that there's a lot of people that are abused at a young age, but by the grace of God, they get help right away. And in doing so, once they get that help, they can go on to have a pretty good life. So, I'm speaking to the people out there that struggle through life because of their abuse, and I'm speaking to the parents that are abusive. There's a lot of them out there, and I'll tell you, it's not really their fault. It's just learned behavior. Hey, it's how their parents were taught, and so they're doing the same thing to their children. And hey, I look at me, I'm a good adult, I'm fine, I'm okay, and it worked for me. Well, hello, Stacy. I'll disagree to that to some point. See, generally, when I sit down with a person with that kind of an attitude, we start talking, they're not as good as they think they are. They're carrying around a lot of anger and frustration from their own childhood. I hear this question all the time, and I'm sure it's going to upset some people, and that's okay, because those people need to be upset. And again, I'm not talking about everybody, but you always hear the question asked, what's wrong with the kids today? Well, to those parents who are asking that question, it might behoove you to go look in the mirror. And it's no fault of yours. Hey, Jeff, it's no fault of yours. You're only doing what you were taught, and what your parents were taught, and your parents' parents were taught. It's handed down through the generation to generation. So, through my book, through everything I do, when I talk to people, my only hope is that you come to realize that your behavior doesn't work anymore, and that you can break the pattern of a generational curse, if that's what you want to call it, yourself. You can make that choice. I made that choice 32 years ago, although I still had to go out and do a lot of experimenting. But I can remember whining to my wife. At that time, we'd only been married 2 years. Why did God not just take me that day I was laying dead on the ground? Why did he bring me back to life? And before I could finish asking my wife that question, the answer came to me. And it's because I needed to break the cycle of abuse in my family, and hopefully help other people to break the cycle in their own families. I was talking with a couple of gentlemen today, and it's just progress. It's not perfection. God's done amazing work in my life very quick. Wow, it's been 12 years, so it's been quick. And I don't take it for granted. So I understand that this journey, especially if you were growing up in an abusive family, and that abuse is, being beat, being called names. There's a lot of it. And the first thing that we need to do is we need to come out of denial. And if we were abused, we were abused. It's okay. I mean, well, it's not okay, but it's okay to say we were. And it's not until we come out of denial that we can start working on changing, start fixing ourselves, so we don't have to continue. Hey, Don, we don't have to continue that pattern of abuse for the next several generations. Excuse me. And I know my family's been broken. I look at my daughter, I look at my son, the way they're raising their children. It's just an absolute miracle and pleasure to watch. So that's why I talk about it so much. It needs to be at the forefront. And again, remember that I'm talking about it from a healed place. I still have some wounds in there. The spiritual abuse that happened to me as a child is the one that really, really is a soul wound that things just keep coming up. And it's wow. But at least I can recognize it now. God's really, really restoring that part of my life as a father, as a husband, and and as a man of God. So what I'm going to do is I quote a little piece from my book today. I've talked to several men that have gone through the same thing. And so just I'm going to read the whole paragraph rather than just the one sentence, if you don't mind, and then I'll elaborate on it a little bit. So on page 112, it's the chapter entitled Spiritual Abuse, okay? And the paragraph is, to this day, I don't believe that love had anything to do with the beatings I endured at my stepfather's hands. The only way I can understand Jack's behavior is that he may have beaten me in order to excise his own self-hatred. But whatever this reason, conscious or unconscious, his beating me and justifying it with religion and God, just religion in the book, or man and God, only pushed me further away from church and God. Only pushed me further away from the church and the God. When you have a man taking a belt to you so severe that you're a duck and cover on the bed, and with every blow he's saying, "You stupid little SOB." That's not punishment. That's abuse. That's abuse. And I'll go into a little bit of this in a minute, but there was nothing but hatred and resentment coming out of Jack when he would beat me like that. And the belt was one way he hit me, other times it was his fist, and it was just duck and cover and pray to God he didn't hit me in the head and kill me. And I know a lot of kids, and I've talked to a lot of men in the last 12 years, and just today I talked to a couple that, they went through the same thing growing up. So it's not like I'm the only one, which is a good sign, but a bad sign. Growing up, I thought I was the only one going through all this, It's a lot of people say, well, I'm just using the rod and the staff as God instructs me to punish my child. Well, if you didn't see me last week, remember the rod and the staff, people misinterpret that to justify their own behavior. And the rod and the staff were never used to beat children. They just weren't. The rod and the staff, they comfort me. Okay, in Psalms 23:4. Okay, the rod and staff were used to correct the direction of the sheep as the sheep herder was walking with them. The crook on the end of the staff was used to pull sheep back out of danger in the event they were headed to a place that they wouldn't stop. The sheep herder could grab them and pull them back into the flock. And he did use the rod and the staff to beat only the wolves and the mountain lions that were coming after his sheep. So people misinterpret that. Ephesians 6:4 says, "Fathers, don't exasperate your children by coming down hard on them." In other words, don't. Another one says, "Don't provoke your children to anger. Take them by the hand and lead them in the way of the master." So, what is the way of the master? Well, it certainly isn't being beat, because nowhere especially in the New Testament, nowhere do you see Christ beating children. Wherever you see Christ, they're on his lap. And in fact, he tells them, "Let the children come to me." In fact, if you don't become as children yourself, you'll never enter my kingdom. So the rod and the staff was used as a way to punish me, as a way of, and it was an excuse. John Lee says it perfect. I love John Lee. He's just phenomenal. And he says this. He says that. What does he say? I'll find it here. I got to find it. I got to hear my notes. The discipline is before the fact. Discipline is before the fact and teaches healthy choice making. Okay, it teaches healthy choice making. So, it's like a simple way I say it is, let's just, for instance, I was studying for a test all week long, and I come home every day, and I knew it was a big math test, and I suck at math, and I got to do good on this math test. So I study, and I study every night, and I study, and I study, and I study. I get the grade back, and I got an F on it. I'm scratching my head. I'm already beating myself up because I know I should have got better than that. But a lot of times, and what would happen to me is, dumb son of a bitch, stupid, you never amount to nothing. What's wrong with you? You know, what are you doing? What did you do? Smoking weed again? Drinking? What do you do? You know, you get more blame piled on top of you, or I got more blame piled on top of me, and that's just you know, how about this? And then I'm punished for it. But what am I being punished for? Because I had a hard time on a test. How about if I sit down with my son, if that was ever to happen? This would have been ideal. Is that, hey, Randy, I saw how hard you studied on that test every night, and we went over it with you. And he goes, what do you think happened? You know, I don't know. Well, you know what? Next time you get a test, let's sit down again. We'll figure it out. We'll figure out a plan to help you get through it maybe a little easier. Maybe I missed something and help you. Whatever. Okay? That's what a parent should be like. And if all things was perfect. I mean, I wasn't perfect myself. I'm better today than I was. But John Lee tells the story of his daughter being out one night. And curfew was 10 o'clock and she didn't show up. 12 o'clock, she didn't show up. 1 o'clock, she finally walked in the door and she looked at her dad and goes, man, I guess I'm in a lot of trouble, Dad. What's my punishment? And he looked at her and he says, nothing. She goes, what? She goes, I told you your curfew was 10 o'clock, but I didn't give you the consequences for you being late. So it's not very fair for me to punish you for something I didn't give you consequences for before. I don't know if any of this is making sense, but it makes perfect sense to me. He goes, now next time you go out next weekend, you got that dance coming up at the end of the month. Next time you come out, you come home 3 hours late, you're not going to that dance. That's punishment. That's correction. Punishment is not beating, not hitting. You know, in Ephesians 6:4, it says, take them by the hand and lead them in the way of the master. And again, I think people fail to read all these scriptures because it kind of goes against what a lot of them are doing. So God, and remember that God's ways, they're not our ways. All right? They're not the ways of my stepfather. They're not the ways of pulling a power trip over me and beating me. That's not what God does. But so what are God's ways? Well, a couple of them are this. He promises wisdom and not confusion. So bring your kid up, your children up. They're going to make mistakes. We all make mistakes. And remember, you were a child once too. And we probably did. I know I did. And you probably did a lot worse than your children are doing today. But discipline them with wisdom. Give them the wisdom they need to make it out on a daily basis. Don't confuse them. Don't confuse them by preaching one thing about how loving God is and how Christ is. And the next thing you know, you're beating the crap out of them in the name of God. Verbally, physically, spiritually. That's just chaos and confusion. That's not the ways of God. And He promises peace. God promises peace. Okay, so discipline. Am I saying, hey, look, if the kids mess up, they mess up. Am I just supposed to let it go? Absolutely. Absolutely not. But it's harder with teenagers, I think. So the younger ones, the way I've been talked to by a lot of people or taught by a lot of people, and what I like to say is this, is that, if you have a child that's having a hard time cleaning up his room, he just won't clean up his room. And maybe he's got a TV in there, whatever it is he's got in that room, whatever his favorite toy is. You sit down with that child and you say, hey, Tommy, you're struggling keeping your room clean, and I really want you to keep that room clean. So I think here's the deal, is that I need your room clean by tomorrow night. When I get home from work tomorrow night, I want all your toys picked up. I want them put away. But if you don't pick up those toys, we're going to have a consequence. Now I'm thinking of 3 consequences: your computer, your phone, and your Xbox being taken away. I'm going to let you make the choice. I'm going to make you make the choice. So he says, okay, I don't want to take away the Xbox. If I don't clean the toys tomorrow, then you can take my Xbox, Mom. So the next night comes home, the Xbox is, or the room, Mom walks in and the room isn't clean. Little kid comes running up, Mom, I'm sorry, I just forgot. Okay, I'll give you till tomorrow night. What are we teaching them? There's no consequences. That all I got to do is look at Mom with these big sad eyes, or Dad, and they're going to let me have what I want. We have to follow through with what we tell the children. The child, in this instance, made the choice himself. He's the one that did it to himself. You gave him the option. Which do you want taken away? It's the consequences for not doing what I asked you to do. Do you want your child fearing you or respecting you? Fearing you or respecting you? I hated Jack. I hated my mother. There was no respect whatsoever for them. I remember growing. I don't want my kids to hate me like I hated my stepfather and my mother. I want my kids to look up to me. I want them to, they can be mad at me. That's okay. That's their right to be mad at me. But I want them to love me. I want them to respect me. I want them to honor me. You know, today all my kids do that. I wasn't perfect as a father. I blew it a lot, especially when I was in my addiction. But we got to give these kids a chance. There was a new study out, and I said it last week in my my live feed, that there's a new study out that really shows that spanking does really no good, because all it does is instill fear in a child. And here's the deal about spanking, because very rarely, if at all, I doubt that anybody can spank a child without any emotions being involved in it. And those emotions, if you've had a bad day at work or a bad week or whatever, and you come home, you're frustrated, and now your child's done something that you disapprove of, and you start hitting them, beating them with a belt or whatever you do, however you do it, even spanking them with your hand, you get those emotions from your bad day behind you. It's a recipe for disaster. It's a recipe for disaster. So, again, I'm not saying not to punish our children. The punishment doesn't have to be physical abuse. It doesn't have to be physical at all. Punishment can be consequences, and you sit down and you discuss those with your children, even as teenagers. My son's smoking weed all the time. He never comes home at night. Well, you're mom and dad, right? Your son's 16 years old, and I know this is hard. I haven't had to do this. The consequence, you come home high again, and you're driving my car, I'm calling the sheriff, and you're going to jail. I can't do that, Randy. It's my son. Then you're going to enable your son to continue the behavior he's doing. But I love him. Didn't do what's best for him. I'm speaking as a father that has never had to do that, so I can't. I've had to throw one of my children out of the house at one point, but so just hitting and beating is doesn't, in my opinion, and now in psychology there's some new articles coming out that it doesn't do any good. So why do we continue to do it? Why do we continue to do it? But remember about our tongue. Proverbs 18:21 says, "The tongue has the power of life and death, and those who love it will eat its fruit." Now, whether you're a Christian, whether you're a biblical person or not, these scriptures I'm talking to you about tonight, they're truth. That's life. I mean, I used to think the Bible was nonsense until I got into recovery and I started really looking at some of this stuff and what it really meant. Proverbs 18:20, "The tongue has the power of life and death, and those who love it will eat its fruit." Think about that. Think about if you had parents that put you down all the time. Was that giving you life, or was that killing your child inside of you? Be honest about it. Don't be in denial. Being called a stupid idiot all the time isn't exactly uplifting. That's tearing me down. I used to tell people, I won't hit you. When I rage, I wouldn't physically rage, but I tell you what, I will tear you apart with my tongue. I had a devil tongue that would just tear you apart. Now I don't use that tongue to tear people apart. I use that tongue to pick people up. We have to pick people up. It's our job. What's my job here on life, on earth? Why am I here? To love others and to help others. It's that simple. To love and help others. Okay? To get out of ourselves. So are you talking peace? Or are you displaying chaos and anger? Just food for thought. Some of you guys might not like what I have to say. What's up, Eric? Might not like what I'm saying, and that's okay. That means I'm doing my job. At least you're watching me and you're hearing it. And maybe a year or two down the road, you'll reflect back and go, oh, okay. Now I know what he's talking about, because I know that's what's happened to me. I've had plenty of people speak into me, and I'm going, you guys are out of your head. I don't know what you're talking about. One of my therapists says, you better be going to jail. I hope they take you to jail. This is a therapist telling me that. I wanted to kill him. But he was right. And by the grace of God, I didn't go to jail. Believe me, God's been on my side ever since I was a kid. I'm not proud of that. But I'd rather be told the truth about something than lied to and patted on the back as, oh, it's okay. Tell me the truth. Don't tell me what you think I want to hear. Because I know none of you want to hear this. Well, maybe you do. I don't know. But I'm going to speak the truth. I'm going to continue to speak the truth. I'm going to continue to be an advocate for people that are abused that have no voice. We have to break the stigma of silence of people that are abused, whether it's sexual, physical, emotional, or spiritual. It's not okay, and it's not part of growing up. So whoever's been spreading that rumor for the last thousands of years, their tongue needs to be cut from them, because it is not part of growing up. Being physically, emotionally abused, sexually abused is not part of growing up. We are children. We're supposed to be able to live a happy life. We're going to have our challenges. That's what life is. That's what builds our character. But we're supposed to be allowed to be children. Too many of us are forced into adulthood at a very young age. I am who I am today because of everything that happened to me. And I would not change that for nothing. I would not change it for nothing. Because I'm happy with who I am today. I'm happy with who I am. Sometimes it's hard. But life's hard. I just think about what Christ died on the cross for. What do I got to complain about? You know what I mean? So anyways, I think that's enough for today. I love you all. Remember that. Hey, I'm going to start posting these on my YouTube channel. It's Healing the Man Within, I think, or Randy Boyd, one of those two, Healing the Man Within YouTube channel. So if you guys would go to that and subscribe to that channel, I really appreciate it. I'm trying to build up that audience. There's a lot of things coming up in the near future. And I've got one more meeting on the 8th or the 9th, and then I will make the announcement I've been promising to make. So I'll make that next week after my meeting on the 9th. Something the Courageous Healers Foundation is going to do. If you're looking for some life coaching, if you're stuck in life in a certain area of your life, you just can't seem to get through it. If you fulfilled every dream you've had and you're still unhappy, check out my life coach page, changeyourlifestorynow.com. Go on there, you can check it all out. If you fill out the contact form, then I will contact you immediately and set up your free 30-minute consultation meeting. We can do it on Skype, we can do it on Zoom, we can do it on FaceTime, we can do it one-on-one. One of my clients was in New Jersey, and we did it once a week on FaceTime. So there's a lot of ways I can do it. You don't have to be right here in my backyard. So I appreciate it if you check that out. Also continue to watch courageoushealers.org page. A lot of things coming up this year with that. And if you're doing any kind of hashtagging on anything, do me a favor and start hashtagging. Put hashtag start the conversation. Hashtag start the conversation. And then also my new devotional. Everybody is getting it, is raving about it. It might be backwards. There it is, a 30-day devotional to wholeness. You can get it on Amazon if you want it there. If you're one that's watching this and you've already read the devotional, if you would go on Amazon and do a review, I greatly appreciate it. If you're in the Coachella Valley, just hit me up, and I'll get you to one person. I always have them with me. So I think that's about all. Life coach. Yeah. So anyways, you all have a blessed rest of the week. And remember, if nobody tells you they love you today, Randy does, but more importantly, God does. Thanks, Lonnie, Eric, Don, Jeff, and Stacy for joining me today. I really appreciate it. Talk to y'all later. Have a blessed day. Bye.